And you said earlier, in response to a question from one of my colleagues, that from the very beginning there was a member of your department in charge of no-deal planning, and that was from when the department was set up. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you also referred to there having been plenty of stories last summer about the consequences of no deal.
Yes.
I've got a copy of the contract notice here between the Department for Transport and Seaborne Freight. Now, you'll be aware, because you're obviously aware of what was discussed in the Commons yesterday, that this wasn't awarded by a competitive tender process. It was awarded under the negotiated procurement procedure without prior publication, as allowed for under Regulation 32 of the Public Contracts Regulations, and I'm reading there from the Department of Transport's statement. And you'll also be aware, if you're in charge of contingency planning, that Regulation 32 allows the government to avoid competitive tendering in cases of extreme urgency brought about by events unforeseeable to the contracting authority, i.e. the government. So this contract, which is dated the 28th of December last year, just a couple of weeks ago, was awarded without a competitive tender basis for reasons of extreme urgency brought about by unforeseeable events. Yet, your evidence is that there has been somebody from the very beginning in your department, i.e. 2 years ago, planning for no deal. So can you explain why the government have thought it appropriate as a matter of law to proceed under Regulation 32 for reasons of urgency, extreme urgency, and unforeseeable events, when the government has had somebody in place planning for no deal for 2 years?
A range of operators were invited to tender, including new entrants into the market and long-standing providers. Seaborne is one of the companies that we've awarded contracts to. Due diligence was conducted, and everything, I believe, was in order.
I'll ask the question again. Can you explain why the government proceeded under Regulation 32 for reasons of extreme urgency and unforeseeable events when you've been planning for no deal for 2 years? It's a very simple question, Minister. Can you answer it?
Yeah, a range of operators were invited to tender, and the correct due diligence was done to fulfil the plans that we require.
Was no deal an unforeseeable event?
Having spent so much time, energy and effort on trying to get a deal, I'd like to think that we would, and everybody in government, our sole focus has been to try and get the deal over, not sole focus, but the priority focus has been trying to get the deal over the line. I would suggest that actually that we did everything correctly. What
was the unforeseeable event that justified the government proceeding under Regulation 32 of the Public Contracts Regulations?
The tenders were awarded correctly.
What was the unforeseeable event that justified the government proceeding under Regulation 32 of the Public Contracts Regulations?
The tenders were awarded correctly.
I'll give you a third chance.
I'll answer the same.
So you don't know what the unforeseeable event was? You can't tell the committee?
The tenders were awarded correctly.
Who could tell us what the unforeseeable events were that justified proceeding under Regulation 32?
I'm not sure if anybody asked the Secretary of State for Transport that yesterday in the urgent question.
That's right.
There you go.